What's a type you're attracted to but too embarrassed to tell anyone? I actually ended up with one because I avoided them for years, but I am currently giving my first one a chance. I call it the schmuck type. I'm not sure why, but I've always had a secret thing for the loser dudes. These guys usually smell like cigarettes, enter grass, don't work out, but can somehow fight and hold their own in a rumble. Either work 24/7 or don't work at all, but they always got money somehow. They're tattooed, they like weirder, lesser known rappers like Lil whatever their name might be, or a lot of Limp Bizkit or maybe even MGK. They often have long hair or have buzzed it short and completely bleached it. Jewelry is optional, but they usually have something they wear that they nearly refuse to leave the house without a hat, chain, etc. It's a little boy in them. And speaking of little boys, they usually have a huge soft spot for their mom, who is usually freaking nice or a total charity case. And they either already have a kid who they don't get to see often. The baby mama is usually some frumpy, crazy chick who constantly complains upon dropping said kid off, or he hasn't had the opportunity to reproduce. As for his job, it's likely a demanding one that requires high energy. You never seem to see him have in person when you're chilling. And when he's at work, it's the most open you see his somehow sexy eyes. And when you're together, he's either making you feel like an absolute royal or he's offering everything he can for you to have fun the way he likes. Play his game, sharing his substances, if any, buying you food from the local spots that are either pretty good or kind of subpar. Depends on the area you live in. And the whatever you want attitude, or he's passing out in your bed, possibly still a little stinky from his day. And he does stink. He stinks. But it's usually because he was doing something for work or someone else that makes him sweat a lot, and he does. It's gross, but he knows when he stinks and he doesn't enjoy it. He's got a car. It either doesn't work right now or he is balling and on the road, and then that usually means he's taxi for a lot of people. Speaking of people, lots and lots of friends. Some of them are very beautiful women, and you may find yourself a bit uneasy at times. But this is usually because men like him are genuinely extremely nice and try to help any way they can. He might be the where's my hug type, or the I spoil everyone type, or maybe even the I vibe with everyone type. He's either very popular or very private. I haven't gotten close enough to the hermit type ones, but usually because I suspected they did hard substances. But that's another thing about the schmuck type. At first glance, you may even suspect this dude definitely does not have his crap together. He will look crummy, ungroomed, gaunty. He might sleep with his mouth open, and he usually falls asleep pretty fast. Guys like this don't know they're tired until their head hits a pillow. Sometimes it's cute, sometimes it worries you. When schmuck type cleans up, he looks awesome, but there's two options here. He either has a kind of crap wardrobe or he's got some separate articles that are super good, and he saves those for when he takes you out to the bar or club. But no matter what, he won't leave if the clothes are dirty or smelly. This is usually the case. Even the worst schmuck might not leave the house for a night out without at least putting jeans on. For errands, though, he will wear whatever he rolled into bed with. I've seen it enough times. Small family consisting of a pretty girl, schmucky guy, possibly a younger child in tow at the grocery or convenience store, and the dude is usually in a getup of sweats or his favorite South Park shirt or something. Hat, always backwards, car speakers, always vibrating, bedroom, always smoky. Then he lays there, on your or his bed, arm up, facial hair making him look like Post Malone, messy hair and hairy pits. Slight BO, but he just worked his back off. He watches TV, smokes his stinky cigarette, and lays there. And somehow, for some reason, this turns me on. Why? Because he smells like freedom, living for the moment responsibly, not caring about BS and being a schmuck to everyone. He looks like a hot summer morning in front of a fan with the comfort of knowing that probably nobody knows where you are, but he will get you anything you need if you can. He feels like sticking it to your mom in the best way too, because he's actually not the piece of garbage he looks like, and he's actually incredibly intelligent. Schmuck type isn't always what it seems, and it's fun as hell, just like I thought it would be. Maybe I'm the female version of schmuck type and just hide it well under past trips to Europe and army dinners and well-kept hair. I guess it's when schmuck type holds his arm out for you to come cuddle and he says in that lazy voice, I got you, honey, come here. Maybe that's all it is. But anyway, there are some mild references to my BF, yes, but I want y'all to know this schmuck fell in love with my soon-to-be 9-year-old daughter and is stepping up to the title of stepdad. She fell in love with him almost as fast as I did, man. He's only like 25 and he's incredible with her. It blows my mind how harshly I misjudge people that appeared like him. The truth, I matched with him on Tinder, thinking I could get a quick fling and maybe some fun out of him, but ugh, God, he doesn't even smile for his Tinder pic. Look at that hat. I bet it stinks like, I bet it smells like his hair. And I matched. Then we met, and he surprised the hell out of me. I didn't even expect him to show up, and he did. Again and again and again. Heard, he says. It means understood, acknowledged. I got you. Ha! I never talked in slang terms like his, but hell yeah, babe. I'll give you a heard. I'm pretty sure her boyfriend's spirit animal is a raccoon, but more leaning towards the emoji type. Always scavenging, always a bit of a mess, but somehow endearing. Story 2. I'm not embarrassed, but apparently I do have a type, big, quote-unquote, ugly men. I go for dudes that aren't conventionally attractive, I guess. I think they're hot as hell, but my friends and family have told me I have an odd taste. I went on and on about my SO to my mom and how attractive I found him, and the look she gave me when she met him kind of said it all, lol. She gave the, do what makes you happy, baby, thing, and she has come to adore him, but I guess he's not subjectively as hot as I think he is. My daughter's dad was also a little different looking years ago when we met, and I thought he was good looking, but again, heard differently from everyone else. Not that any of them are disfigured or anything, just not conventionally attractive, I guess. The ex has aged 17 years, and many have said he's way more traditionally handsome now, but I don't find him attractive anymore. Like, even if we were strangers on the street, I would see him and think, I'm not into girls, but I do observe them, and I've always found the women who don't adhere to the traditional beauty standards as more beautiful too. Beauty really is in the eye of the beholder, though. I've always been treated as kinda cute, a solid okay, but my SO from the very first time we met looks at me like I am the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. Story 3. In terms of looks, I really like black-haired people, especially when their hair is darker than their skin. Fair-skinned or brown-skinned, doesn't matter. I'm a bit ashamed because it's kinda prejudiced. Latino types, Asian types, Indian types, Arab types, hot Italian people, or brunette Europeans with really black hair. But especially East Asians. My first crush was Sasuke from Naruto, and I never really got over dark hair and Japanese language speakers. Otome games? Give me all of them. Their looks make me melt into a puddle. In my defense, I never imagined people or hit on them, try to date them only because of their looks. If you don't vibe, we don't vibe, period. And I've dated people with very different looks because personality means way more to me in relationships. Actually, my partner is blonde and he's the love of my life. And I really don't want to be that creepy person who only chases people of a certain ethnicity. That's really bad. But every time I see a K-pop girl group or a K-drama or a Chinese drama, oh crap, I'm secretly drooling. I'm so sorry. Story 4. My sister called me out on this one a couple years ago after my last breakup. She pulled me apart and went, I mean this in the best possible way, but you gotta stop having mentally unstable as a type. It's not that it is my type, but I'd somehow always end up with people who are mentally unstable and unavailable, which led to me being neglected and making me feel like I had to make myself extremely small just to meet all their needs. Now I'm dating the love of my life, someone who actually communicates their needs, thoughts, feelings, etc., and who allows me to be me without having to make myself small. We both struggle with mental health matters every once in a while, but it's a safe space where we can talk things through and support each other. And because of that, it is not toxic. Also because we both put in the work when it comes to our own mental health, but also making us work. One therapy resource that I found really helpful is the book No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. A lot of the time when we see ourselves making choices we don't like or feeling confused by our feelings and actions, that's because there's several different things happening simultaneously within us, but we have trouble seeing that because we only expect to find one, or some stuff is hiding behind other stuff. Once you've got more of these internal pieces identified, it's easier to figure out what inside is hurting and direct compassion at it, or to figure out what inside is self-sabotaging and find a different job for it. For example, I used to have a hard time distinguishing between feeling loved and feeling useful/worth something. So it was hard for me to believe when somebody said they loved me or liked me, unless I was sacrificing my whole life for them. I was also so checked out of my own feelings that it was easier to identify what was expected of me than it was to figure out what I actually liked and wanted. Now, I can separate out those different feelings, and it's easier to identify when I genuinely like or dislike something versus playing out a role that I think is correct. Plus, it turns out I actually can accept unconditional love and affection without being crippled by guilt and feeling like I don't deserve it, which is neat. Story 5. When I was young, I dated a girl with a really small head once, and I wouldn't mind a more regularly sized head in a woman, but I dated this girl with this little pen-top head, you know? Sometimes when I was making out with her, I'd hold her face with my two hands, and the bottom of my hands would touch below her chin, and the top of my hands would touch the top of her head at the same time. And she was an adult, obviously, and I just remember thinking, damn, she's got that little cabbage ball. And I just started thinking about how many ideas could she even have in this thing, in this little hedge, on top of her neck. And I was always just scared that someone with a T-ball bat would roll up and try to hit a double. Okay. I'm guessing her favorite hat was a thimble. Sorry, I had to add that on. Story 6. The awkward, geeky guys with glasses, the ones who are confident in the things they love, but just a bit awkward. There's just something I love about winding them up because sometimes they'll try and give as good as they can get, but once they don't know what to do, they're usually smiling and having fun, but have no idea what to say. That's the bit I like. The minute I can see I can get that reaction out of someone, I'm hooked. But it's also an issue because usually they have low self esteem, so at some point it turns into a why are you dating someone like me? Story 7. I only discovered this about myself with the guy I'm dating now. Was always into really skinny dudes and only dated skinny dudes, and then I saw my guy one day and thought he was really cute, immediate crush. He was wearing a mask for the first few months of knowing him, only knew him as a coworker. And then one day I saw him walking around without his mask, and oh my god, he is gorgeous. I had to physically avert my eyes because I couldn't stop looking at him. I'm pretty shy and unapproachable to people I don't really know, so he stopped talking to me, but I couldn't stand it. I overcame my shyness and went and confronted him about it one day, playfully, took his phone and put my details in it and told him to come talk to me. A month later, we were dating. Anyway, I like thinking about it. He's soft and comfy and so strong, so I feel really safe with him. I call him my pillow BF. I'm seeing him later, and I can't wait. Story 8. There was this one girl I met at work and was like the only girl there that gave off tomboy vibes. The cherry on top was when she didn't wear any makeup and went with the all-natural look, which made her look phenomenal. She just gave out this sense of confidence I've never felt from a woman. Like, gee, no wonder all the guys at work had a crush on her, including myself, and thought I didn't have a chance in hell with her, especially when she started to dress up more girly, paint her nails, and wear makeup. My thought was, damn, she's probably trying to get some dude's attention. 10 years later, we're now married. She admitted to me some years later that she started to dress up a little bit more because she had a massive crush on me and hoped that would get my attention. I mean, even without her getting all prepped up, she always had my attention. LOL. Story 9. I like bigger girls, not morbidly obese or fat, but chubby or a bit bigger than that is the best way to describe it, especially bottom heavy in her thighs and belly. I'm not sure how it would work because I'm very athletic and I go to the gym a lot. I wouldn't want her to feel self-conscious, and I also wouldn't want to make it seem like I don't want to spend time with her by being out a lot at the gym, but I would find a way. I also don't want my family to judge me for my choice, but I'm sure they would. I'm very close with my family, and I know they'd be respectful and treat her well, but my brother and my dad are a little bit more inclined to comment on and joke about things that maybe they shouldn't. Story 10. Also, I know I already posted here, but probably my biggest fantasy is broke dudes with a strong creative spirit. Like, I'd want him to have a place to live and a job at least, but the type of guy who has little or no money to spare, but can still take us on adventures and romantic little outings on a budget. Yes, this. It's charm, it's heart, it's ingenuity, it's amazing. It's the fact that he knows that he can't just buy my affection by throwing money and gifts at me. Jewelry and five-star restaurants ain't got nothing on some of these dates that these broke dudes come up with. When a broke dude says, come with me, I want to show you something cool, and you can never predict what it's going to be, like a place where you can see the stars very well, or like the way the light shines on some graffiti mural in his neighborhood, or a block party where people are using paint containers as drums, as you just have nothing to do but walk and talk and laugh and dream. And like, especially if they're broke in a hot way, like starving artist vibes, or in some underpaid nurturing career like taking care of animals, kids, or old people, or a student learning something he's passionate about, a nomadic minimalist guy. It's not very sustainable if we want to talk about settling down, but while just having fun and looking for adventure, it's chef's kiss. My Jack Dawsons, Aladdins, and Will Turners, where are you at? Story 11. For me, my type is the intersection of alt girls and gym girls. They are just so rare because most women who work out a lot seem to have more mainstream tastes, and most women into alternative scenes and aesthetics don't seem to work out much. I guess I say embarrassed to tell anyone because it's not really considered polite in civilized culture to talk about body types you're attracted to because, one, usually this discussion is not called for because nobody asked and divulging it unsolicited is weird and creepy. And two, even if it's a situation in which somebody does solicit this information, it's considered shallow to say anything other than, all that matters is that they have a good personality and take care of themselves. And people seem to get more realistic about attraction if you say you like certain features. But in truth, whereas before I worked out, any healthy body weight would do, and I didn't care if she worked out or not. The more I work out, the more I can really be attracted enough to a woman to be interested if she doesn't have only a pleasant personality and face, but also a gym built physique. The alt stuff is more of a bonus than a necessity. I don't have to have the exact same media taste as somebody to find myself drawn to them. It's not like I'll dislike somebody because she listens to the radio. It's just extra nice when she is into cool music and has a cool aesthetic and tattoos going on. Story 12. Women are the fairer species for sure, and I am a lover of women. I'm attracted to most types of women and not embarrassed to admit it. Short, tall, fat, skinny, blonde, brunette, redheads, plain exotic, unconventionally attractive, and most anything in between. I suppose I have a upper and lower weight limit, but it's a broad spectrum and I couldn't specify what those limits are. And I do prefer all natural, but I'm pretty flexible on that too. The only women I don't find myself particularly attracted to are overly toned, muscular women or overly made up women. Good for them though, and those who like that look or style, but it's just not for me. Story 13. This may sound a bit cliche and juvenile, but I am most attracted to women with extremely large melons, like size of my head melons, especially if she's proud of them and likes to show them off. I know, heard her, most guys love big melons, but I'm like into really huge melons. Way more than most guys are, and way more than I'm willing to admit to anyone I know in real life. Overall body type isn't that important, although they naturally tend to be on the heavier side, which I'm totally good with. I don't really have a specific type when it comes to other common aspects of appearance, ethnicity, hair color, hairstyle, height, skin tone, fashion style, etc. I find myself attracted to women with all sorts of different combinations of those physical traits, but if she has massive melons too, oh man. Story 14. Average guys, like just totally freaking average. Are you between 5'5" and 6'3"? Do you have dark blonde, black hair? Bald is fine. Got brown eyes? You got a few common interests with me, like video games and cooking and some of your own, like sports, so we can hang out or get breaks? You got enough of a job, living situation to call yourself independent? You're within 170, 250 pounds-ish and fit enough to go for a hike or some crap a couple times per summer? You believe in equal rights for all and don't start fights with strangers in public? Cool. Man of my dreams. I'd never tell anyone IRL though because I found the love of my life and he's amazing and perfect, and how could I explain the average guy thing without undercutting that? Like, how insulting would it be to have your partner say you're an average guy? Very, but I don't mean it like that. Pretty much, she's basically describing every guy in a generic rom-com. Story 15. I'm very into the sickly, pathetic look some men have, like the perpetually anemic and never well-rested look. He's got to be deficient in at least 6 kinds of vitamins and minerals to appeal to me. I need him looking fragile, like a Victorian man with a vague, unspecified illness that confines him to his estate away from anyone that doesn't work for him. If he's brooding, even better. I need him to be the depressive, shadowling nightmare boy to my manic pixie dream girl. I need to be able to take him apart piece by piece and slowly put him back together with my love. Not in a I can fix him kind of way, but in a this super gorilla grip is about to make him go blind and meet God kind of way, you know? And if you're enjoying the video so far and you do know what we're talking about, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 16. I'm not that embarrassed to tell anyone, but I seem to have a thing for both sides of the stereotypical tomboy relationship. I'm a straight male, so it might be a little weird and I don't seek them out. It isn't an intellectual thing, at least not consciously. But I have, in my life, found myself into women that I would discover were a part of such relationships. Often I can tell someone is on the butch side about as quickly as I interact with them. I'm just usually attracted anyway. This isn't always true, though. And I find myself attracted to straight or bi women that have that aesthetic. The first girl I ever tried to flirt with at a high school party was a girl who was not straight, a bit butch, and literally everyone knew it but me. Meanwhile, she politely tells me after my pretty awkward attempts at flirting that she's into girls, and I was so oblivious, I thought she was just trying to let me down kindly. Maybe that had something to do with it? Later in life, I was going out with a beautiful woman who was on the hyper-feminine cute side. It turned out she was bi and had a full-time girlfriend who was your classic Tom. I ended up inviting her Tom girlfriend out to dinner with us, and that was when it dawned on me that I was somehow subconsciously attracted to this pairing. I actually did just innocently give the invite. Obviously, I had a spark of interest in figuring out how to maneuver into a wider relationship between the three of us, but it was nearly instantly obvious that the Tom wasn't interested, and I didn't push it at all. I ended up moving away a few months after that, but I still see the couple on my Facebook feed as a steady reminder that I've got some weird subconscious thing going on. They do seem to be happy together. It's been 10 years and they are still together. So I'm also kind of glad that I didn't do something that might have disrupted their happy relationship. The Tom in that relationship just tolerated her GF seeing guys because she knew that it was important to her, but she was a bit jealous about it. I can respect that. That's a pretty good way to live, to be honest. Story 17. My fiance is exactly my type. Biggest Star Wars nerd you'd ever meet, but not so much that it consumes his personality. Wildly inappropriate jokes, balance between empathy and objectivity, love for animals, goofy, does random impressions while we're making out heavy, shares his food with me. I could go on forever, but the biggest turn on to me about my fiance is his dexterity with computers. His spreadsheets just do things to me, man. His blueprints and fleet designs for ships he created for a Star Wars story, complete with colored diagrams and feverish sketches. When he pulled out that folder of his designs, I was ready to go. Story 18. I have had quite a few crushes on the small-shouldered, nerdy guy of the group that all the other guys make fun of. In famous TV characters, these are types like Bud from Married with Children or Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad. What was funny, though, is one of the real-life guys like this found out years later that I'd had a crush on him. We didn't really speak or anything, but we traveled in the same circles, and he'd make it his business to tell everyone who knew me that I had a crush on him in high school. Back in school, I was a chubby, alternative chick with braces who no one gave a crap about, but in my 20s, I was fairly popular. Though I didn't have any feelings for him at all, I did always chuckle when someone told me he was blabbing about how I liked him back when. Story 19. There's something wrong with me, and for some reason, I'm very attracted to people who don't have their life together, like at all. I don't admit this to many people IRL because it sounds unhinged. Many very nice, kind, and smart people with interests similar to mine have expressed interest in me, and while I really wanted to behave like a normal person and love them back, I discovered that I am, for some reason, incapable of feeling anything intimate towards people who aren't the human equivalent of a trash can set ablaze. That doesn't necessarily mean outcasts of society or anything like that. For example, one of my exes, I'm friends with him now, is a law student, which is great, but he spends 90% of his time wasted. He's been unemployed all his life, which isn't bad per se, but he doesn't do anything good for himself nor others with his time. He has committed numerous attempts. His favorite hobby is arguing, and his other hobby is social power play and mind chess when he's trying to score. BTW, he doesn't even want to score. He just wants to win a social interaction. I know this because he has told me so. He treats women as disposable, and his greatest conviction is that a relationship should last about 3 years, max. His second greatest conviction is that he won't live to see his 30th birthday. Possible, he smokes like a chimney, drinks like a sailor, and argues with people who first and ask questions later. But on the other hand are people like my other ex, who are probably what you think of when I say people who don't have their life together. He studies IT because it's the only thing he's mildly decent at, sternly refuses to get a job, and his parents pay everything for him. All his exes dumped him because he's an incredibly immature man with the emotional intelligence of a rock. He cannot behave himself at all. His parents had to make all his phone calls for him, and I had to write his emails. He can and will miss every appointment known to man and will not reschedule. He can't even order his own pizza. I had to go to a doctor's appointments with him because he'd be too afraid to stay like half of the things he wanted to. Story 20. Authority figures. I'm 18 now, but I still fantasize about a teacher, therapist, police, military woman, or babysitter. Less of a type and more of a preference, but yeah, any woman who has power over me, not necessarily intimately or physically dominant, just someone who can boss me around or look out for me, someone who has a lot of information and life experience most girls nowadays don't have. A responsible woman, but also one who would bend the rules to be with me. That's the dream. However, another is tomboys for sure, though I'm not embarrassed about that. They are goddamn amazing to me. One of the best blessings brought upon the earth. Short hair, more rugged exterior, can talk about guy stuff, simply breathtaking. Katie M. O'Brien is an example. Would let her crawl all over me any day, though, as in most cases, unfortunately, she is quite not straight. Story 21. When I was in high school, I liked a girl who was pestered. She was the first openly not straight girl in my grade and was picked on. I'm FTM, so I wasn't yet transitioned to male at the time and thought I was one too. She had a prominent upper palate, so her teeth weren't seen as very pretty, and she had some acne problem, as many people do. She was also curvy, short, and came from a family that wasn't well off, so she was probably picked on for those things too. She was also extremely smart, confident, compassionate, and resilient in the face of adversity. She was a great actress and auditioned for every play, and despite only giving smaller roles due to her lack of popularity, she always gave 110% to her roles. She is grateful for everything she had. She was welcoming of all genders in a time that many were not. She had a strong moral compass and would stick up for other people. She was hilarious, charming, and a beautiful singing voice. I first developed a crush on her from afar. She was only in one of my classes in grade 9. In that class one day, we were asked to partner up, and I noticed nobody went to her. I wasn't very popular myself, but I certainly outranked her in high school popularity, as stupid as that sounds looking back. I could feel the sadness she was hiding. I went over and we worked together, and I felt a connection to her when I saw her appreciation. We went on and years later to be in the same circle of friends, mostly drama kids. I always felt a sense of embarrassment that I became their friends. A part of me wanted to find, quote, cool kids to hang out with, but they were all great people, and I did consider myself lucky to have known them. I never told her how I felt, though, and eventually we had an argument over something stupid just before we graduated. I can't even remember what it was about. I was probably just making a big deal of nothing, looking for an excuse to push her away so I didn't have to continue to face the fact that I liked her. I realized shortly after that being embarrassed of someone you love is the worst thing you can do to yourself and to them. She was amazing, and even if other kids didn't think she was beautiful, I did. I learned from that experience, and I promised to never be ashamed of a crush ever again. Story 22. Asian women. I'm embarrassed because so much has come out about yellow fever and passport bros and men attracted to Asian women because of stereotypes about them being docile and family-oriented and obedient. Ugh. I hate that these stereotypes are out there. I hate the men going after Asian women specifically because they feel like they can dominate and control them. I just am generally attracted to the look of Asian women. I don't demand anything specifically in personality and recognize that they are all individuals, but it's difficult to find yourself attracted to Asian women as a white man right now and not get lumped in with the they're so obedient and don't act up like Western women crowd. Story 23. Extremely emotionally driven people. Depressed people too. They always have a weird way of making me catch feelings for them, and I don't think it's because I feel bad for them, at least entirely. I think it's because they are much more appreciative of simple, straightforward kindness. Even if they don't show it, you can always just tell how seemingly small things mean a lot to people going through hard times. I think I also might like both because I am and have been both throughout my life, so I find a sense of relatability in it all. Story 24. When talking to my friends about celebs who are attractive and all that, I just don't bring up the girl next door types that I am drawn to, like Casey Wilson, anytime, anywhere. Zoe Kazan, especially in Ruby Sparks, Mae Whitman, especially in The Dove, but also Good Girls, Jessie Ennis, recently Stephanie Sue. Of course, I think Anna de Armas and Margaret Robbie are super hot, but these above are ones I would have crushes on if I were single, especially Casey Wilson, if that makes any sense. They are who I'd want to date and marry. Story 25. I get proximity crushes on basically everybody I've ever worked with. I keep it to myself because I don't want to be a creep, and though I do get fixated on people, it is always temporary. If I find out they are in a committed relationship, I basically say to myself, okay, that crush is over, on to the next. I've been cheated on and will never entertain the idea of inflicting that on another person. For me, it is that simple, a light switch, a choice. Big noses, I find them beautiful and sculptural like a piece of art. Buck teeth, I decay what it is, but I just think it is such a charming teeth orientation. Eye wrinkles when smiling, especially on middle-aged-ish men, so hot. Big, strong women, as in big-boned, tall, and strong. If you're familiar with Zelda video games, think of the Gerudo women and the Great Fairies. That's what I have in mind. Also, transformed women. Several ones I know are beautiful but not overly feminine. So there's a bit of androgyny that I find very attractive, but also just the focus on personal development, being a happy, healthy human, and generally being people that expand my worldview. I just find that magnetic. I'm not too embarrassed, but I do keep it to myself because I value those friendships and I don't want to give an appearance of them because they are different. I love them because they are powerful, sincere, introspective, and have a perspective on the world having lived as multiple genders that I can only know from the experiences they share with me. I'm a straight cis woman, but honestly, prob's a bit curved, LMAO. Story 26. Extremely traditional women. Even though I really like the idea of having an equal partner and would want my spouse to pursue their dreams, seeing one of the women from the nearby Mormon community walking through the supermarket in one of those beautiful handmade traditional dresses just triggers something. Maybe it's the desire to support someone, to take care of them and protect them. To come home every night after a hard day of work and just have that support of a loving home? I don't know, it's weird, but I secretly smile a little when I walk past them, even though my peers wouldn't approve. Story 27. Reaching into the depths here, but like literally the most traditionally masculine women ever, personality and looks wise to the extremes. There was a girl I met. At the time, I knew her pronouns were she/her. One day, working at Publix, and she had hairy legs. Like, she didn't shave at all and had the most dorkiest deep I've ever heard. Said dude and bro and sick in every sentence like I did, and loved asking me questions while we walked to her car and learning about me. Total gentleman, to be honest. Sadly, because of a distraction, I never got her number. Unfortunately, I never ran into her again and left Publix, but I'll never forget the weird, creeped out faces my coworkers gave me. Duck, if you're out there, I forgot to mention this sick jazz club I know. Story 28. Not something I'm embarrassed by, but women who are less attractive and don't care too much about their appearance. I'd much rather a partner never wear makeup or only on special occasions than it be an everyday routine and expense. I'd rather her spend her time creating meaningful interactions than looking pretty. Plus, I feel like very attractive women who put a lot of time and effort into how they look have lived a very different life from mine, and thus they have very different values. I want someone I can come home to and feel entirely emotionally vulnerable and open with, rather than someone with immense physical beauty I can show off to my friends. Story 29. Finally, somewhere I can spill the truth. I am attracted to South Asian men specifically, or as my BF calls himself, a brown boy. Now, before you come at me, I've been with my BF for 6 years and we are very well established. He's from India. We can joke about how I'm prejudiced. I'm not. But I just love everything about the food, the culture, and the darkest skin is just so attractive to me. I'm not even attracted to white people, like at all, and I'm white. You could put the most attractive white male in front of me, and I'd be like, eh. And no, it's not because my BF is South Asian, because even if we weren't together, I have pretty much decided that brown skin is the most attractive to me, and all my BFs, except one, have been darker skin, mixed race, Mexican, etc. Tell me if there's something wrong with me, but I'm content with it, aside from the fact I can't say this to people, lol. Story 30. Very muscular women and very tall women, so ideally very tall, muscular women. I've had a certain aesthetic fondness for Asian women since I saw Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan when I used to watch figure skating with my mother. I'd also find something very alluring about a woman who is intelligent and educated, especially in a subject that is 1. Lucrative, or 2. Addresses my interests. My ideal woman is probably a 7-foot 6-inch Japanese champion powerlifter with advanced degrees in moral philosophy and finance. Like they always say, men have unrealistic expectations of women. Not that it matters. Such a marvel would have no interest in the company of, let's say, a mediocre, very hairy, slightly oversized Bob Hoskins knockoff. I'm flattering myself a little with that one. I would also never think it appropriate to speak to her beyond, excuse me, as courtesy might demand in certain circumstances. Story 31. I started to like guys somewhat younger than me. I find that gross. I never thought I'd like them, but I'm aging and keep meeting guys that are younger than me in the places I frequent. Also, I still look somewhat young, so young guys keep hitting on me. Also, really tall guys. Since I'm short, I don't think it's appropriate for me to go after a tall guy. I never gave any thought to height until I met up with a guy and he was towering over me, and then I was like, fuck, now I get why some girls want tall men. The height difference is hot, but somehow not fun because it's too hard to try to kiss them because their face is like all the way up there. Even hugging them is annoying because I ain't trying to hug their body. I want to hug and have his face close to mine. Story 32. Let me provide a little context before the answer. A few years ago, I was working on a second shift job and typically got out around midnight. One winter, I was leaving work, particularly cold and particularly tired, and I decided that a cup of coffee would go a long way to solving both of these problems. I drove out to the local coffee shop, parked, and walked up to the entrance when I slipped on an insidiously nasty patch of black ice and fell directly on my back. Some young woman who couldn't have been over 22, maybe 110 pounds soaking wet, happened to be walking up at the same time I was and had witnessed the whole thing. She offered me a hand up, which I refused. You'll just end up on the ground next to me, I told her. She let me know I was being stubborn and offered to help me up again. I shrugged and took her hand. I weigh 250 and am 6 feet tall, 6'1" and change with my boots on. I kid you not, she lifted me clear off the ground, one-handed, and set me on my feet. She kind of tossed her hair and giggled, saying, I played all the sports in high school. Like that was any kind of explanation for her absurd show of strength. Of course, my body decided that the only reasonable reaction would be to pop an instant. I muttered a hasty, thank you, and then rushed inside to place my embarrassed order. So it turns out that tough women got my motor running. Story 33. I keep ending up with women who are very attractive, but only on the outside. Each time after we break up, I tell myself I'm going to prioritize personality. Then I meet someone who is gorgeous and outgoing, but also shallow, materialistic, short fused, sometimes outright rude or manipulative. And because none of this is aimed at me or it's hidden or rose colored while we are in the honeymoon phase, I convince myself that they are driven, A type, they usually are, and emotional, passionate, speaks their mind. Then I wake up somewhere between 3 months and 4 years later, and I think, what the hell am I doing with this person who treats their friends, our servers, random people we encounter, etc., like crap? And would I want to risk my kids inheriting her personality? No. Story 34. My type might be something I perceive as being embarrassing or as something that people will wrongfully misinterpret my intention behind being attracted to such a type. I like petite women that aren't a supermodel severity level of skinny. I just don't like how fat I am. I have self-confidence issues regarding the stretch marks that resulted from high school growth spurts, particularly my inner thighs, and I would prefer a petite-sized woman over a more average build. I'm not profoundly dissuaded by someone who is slightly more flat and doesn't have much in the trunk. For me, 60% of attraction is based on their face, 30% on their overall body type, and 10% is additional features or uniqueness. I think someone of that type is likely to have some diminished confidence about their image, and that would make me feel that we could empathize regarding such, which would make me feel more confident and comfortable. My concern is that other people might say, I want someone of this type because it would be easier to physically or emotionally manipulate them. This isn't my intent, but I acknowledge that some men prey on this type of woman. Story 35. People who like being wrong. I love being wrong. If someone shows me that I'm wrong, it means I have learned something new and I am marginally better than I was the day before. Even if I'm not fully convinced that I am wrong, I do get to hear and learn about another perspective on any topic, which is awesome. I like seeing that trait in other people. It means we can have really awesome conversations about a wide range of topics. That mental stimulation is super attractive. But all too often, people view being wrong as being inferior or small. They react as if they are being personally attacked, which is an instant turnoff. And if you like these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.